On January 26, 2024, South Africa presented a well-argued case before the International Court of Justice, ICJ, the UN's judicial arm, alleging Israel is committing genocide in Gaza. However, Israel denies the charges and claims its actions in Gaza are self-defense. However, numerous reports and accounts from UN special rapporteurs and others explain the impacts of Israel's war inside Gaza. But countries are turning a blind eye to the situation. For instance, as a party to the Genocide Convention, the United States is required to undertake to prevent and punish the crime of genocide. That commitment has become meaningless as the United States simply looks away when the party accused of international crimes is an ally or if the outcome of an assessment is inconvenient. Notably, U.S. officials have been silent, dismissing the case as meritless and without any factual basis, and have even vowed to punish South Africa through any means available. But before we dive into the whys and how the army aims to punish South Africa, let's first of all look at the background of the situation. In the near past, for a period of nearly 20 years, apartheid Pretoria and Tel Aviv were significant partners. This ranged from commercial ties to nuclear weapons collaboration. While South African apartheid Prime Minister P.W. Botha was continuing his close allyship with then-Israeli Defense Minister Ariel Sharon in the early 1980s, the Palestine Liberation Organization, PLO, was an increasingly strong supporter of the resistance group, the African National Congress, ANC, and its leader Nelson Mandela. Today, both the pro-Israel lobby and pro-Palestine movements in South Africa are significantly large, with pro-Palestine marches bringing together up to 200,000 people. The groups are openly hostile towards each other, even more so since October 7, when protesters have come up against each other at heated protests. Therefore, South Africa and Israel's relationship, both historically and at present, is clearly a complex one, with the South African government seesawing from chastising Israel to turning a blind eye to its actions. Perhaps the ongoing Gaza war will be the tipping point for South Africa to decide where it stands with regards to Israel and whether its legacy of Palestinian solidarity overrides its desire to balance other interests. South Africa has been vocal in reprimanding Israel's bombardment of Gaza and filed a referral to the International Criminal Court, seeking investigations into what Ramaphosa has described as Israel's war crimes and tantamount to genocide. South African diplomats have long identified a likeness between life for Palestinians under occupation and that of those who lived under apartheid, the legal system for racial separation in South Africa from 1948 until 1994. So what are the reasons behind South Africa's decision to take Israel to the ICJ? The present case is brought under the 1948 Genocide Convention, a treaty to which South Africa and Israel, like most of the world, are parties and, under its provisions, have agreed to send any disputes about the convention to the court. Israel argues that there is not a dispute, and that therefore the court does not have jurisdiction. In late 2023, South Africa filed a case with the ICJ, accusing Israel of failing to uphold its commitments under the 1948 Convention on the Prevention and Punishment of the Crime of Genocide amid the war on Gaza. The World Court did not determine whether or not Israel is guilty of genocide, but the ICJ ruled that South Africa's claims are plausible. The ICJ ordered provisional measures for Israel's government to desist from genocidal acts, hold individuals accountable for past public incitements to genocide while preventing any such incitement in the future, and take swift measures to guarantee that humanitarian assistance is provided to civilians in the besieged Gaza Strip. However, in response, the U.S. has described South Africa's filing at the International Court of Justice, ICJ, accusing Israel of committing genocidal acts in Gaza as meritless, counterproductive, and completely without any basis in fact whatsoever. Also, the U.S. has repeatedly said that it is not seeing any acts that constitute genocide and has threatened to punish South Africa by instituting some possible punitive measures. The U.S. State Department terms its relations with the Southern African nation as strong. However, some of the U.S. congressmen have come out saying that it is time that the ties come under review. The American officials accuse Pretoria of building ties to countries and actors that undermine the U.S.'s national security and threaten the U.S.'s way of life through its military and political cooperation with China and Russia and its support of U.S.-designated terrorist organization Hamas. Also, it calls South Africa's ICJ case against Israel a politically motivated one and claims it is wrongfully accusing Israel. Therefore, a bipartisan group of U.S. lawmakers asked the Biden administration in a letter to punish South Africa by removing the country from the African Growth and Opportunity Act, AGOA. The lawmakers claimed South Africa supported Israel's invasion and called into question its eligibility to receive trade benefits from the U.S. under a law that improved U.S. market access to qualifying sub-Saharan African countries. South Africa is one of the biggest beneficiaries of the act, which allows sub-Saharan African countries duty-free access to the U.S. market provided they meet certain conditions. South Africa's exports to the U.S. through AGOA were estimated at $3 billion last year. Also, the U.S. is South Africa's second biggest trade partner behind China. The Biden administration has not spoken of any sanctions or punishment against South Africa, but analysts have mentioned the trade law as a means by which the country might be punished. Any restriction of South Africa's trade with the U.S. would be deeply damaging to Africa's most developed country, which is wrestling with a stagnant economy, huge unemployment, and an energy crisis. In response, speaking to South African top diplomat Naledi Pandor, she said she believes that South Africa offers quality products to the U.S. market, and I wish that relationship to grow. Also, she added that South Africans have different views on many foreign policy matters, but as a democracy, they affirm the sovereign right of states to frame their foreign policy. But she said that she is concerned about the bill drafters' attempt to associate our country with terrorism and the atrocious attack against civilians in Israel. Final thoughts. In undertaking the effort to put on public display the extent of damage caused by Israel's offensive against Gaza, South Africa is leading the Global South in rejecting the notion that international law has selective applicability. South Africa succeeded in bringing the world's attention to the utter destruction Israel is inflicting on Gaza, forcing Israel to stand trial for crimes much of the world has been witnessing over the past 110 days. As the court noted, the lives of the hostages are still at grave risk, and Hamas must free the innocents. At the same time, it is imperative that Israel and its allies rigorously adhere to the court's decision to minimize civilian harm. It will be important to watch, as this case goes forward, how statements, speeches, or directives issued by senior government officials might serve as legal evidence against them. This could have implications for potential future cases at the ICJ, including if a morally courageous state brings a case against China for what it has said and done to Uyghurs. There you have it. Thanks, guys, for watching. If you loved the video, please consider subscribing to our channel, liking, sharing, commenting, and turning on the notification button. Until next time, bye.